What's going on, Rose?
What's good?
Oh, what an ass whooping tonight.
Happens. Whatever.
You know, like I felt like they had a chance. But that second quarter was, when we were going up against their bench unit just whipped our bench unit's ass tonight. And that most of that happened in the second quarter. They lost the second quarter 44-20. And they just let it get out of hand. You know what I'm saying? They just were just hitting shots after shot after shot. And
I mean, it's hard to win any basketball game when the other team shoots like 16 of 22 from three or whatever the hell that was.
yeah, like at
It's
one point I
hard.
looked up and it was just like, but they didn't do a good job of containing the ball tonight. You know what I'm saying? And they just let the ball rotate, and it's almost like they were. I don't know what they were doing in that
They just look.
first
They just
quarter.
looked like a little bit off tonight in terms of
Yeah.
like everything, and it happens. Like I can understand it. Like
Hmm.
ass whooping. Like you're gonna get an ass whooping every now and then, as long as it doesn't become like a trend, which it shouldn't. Then this is
Four
this is just
games
like a
in
random
six
night.
nights, man. They're tired, bro. Four
Yeah,
games in six
Yo,
nights,
man,
bro. They're
they're
tired,
on the
man.
road for like so long. Like seven of our first 10 games are on the road. Like they're just fatigued with
Four
this road
games
shit
in
before.
6 nights. They're tired.
bro, I'm not
Since
gonna lie to
last
you, bro.
season, they're 22-4 on the road. They're tired, man.
hmm
Yeah. So 4 games in 6 nights, and I mean, like, when I was really thinking about it, and I was thinking about the last game, like the last game was kind of an emotional game, like not only for them, but even for the fan base. You know what I'm saying? Because that was like a measuring stick game. You know what I'm saying? And then we just came back, and it was just a clunker tonight, bro. Like just a clunker. But I mean, all in all, I still like what I see though. Like they gave up a little. They gave a little fight in that and then I think the
I'm
third
glad you.
quarter
Yeah,
they
I'm glad you're mentioning that because like yeah, they could have easily made this a
yeah.
real good laugher, like a 50 point game, but yeah, they actually fought back and it
Yeah.
literally was a tale of two halves. Like the Cavs actually stopped making shots because they were actually starting to actually care on the other end.
Sometimes in the league, man, like people just like make shots, you know what I'm saying?
And yeah, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like even your best defense, like even to that play, and if they're hitting shit, like what are you supposed to do? You know?
All right, I'm gonna say something real quick.
Yeah.
You know, tough loss tonight. It is what it is. You can't win them all. I'm glad that the second string guys, the bench guys, Kaminga, Pods came out and fought in the third and fourth. They won the third and fourth, but tonight it was really on the starters. Nobody played with energy in that starting lineup. Curry had 6 turnovers. Draymond had two and then 4 fouls. It was a mess. Draymond was -23. Wiggins was -23, and Curry was -25. When your starters are doing that, you're bound to lose the game. And then to add on to it, Cavs were hitting everything. Ty Jerome had 20 points, man. If Ty Jerome has 20 points, you're in for a long night. So it is what it is.
Yo,
I'm
Glorious. To your point, real quick, I just want to say this too, bro. I don't know what it is, bro, but TJD has been playing. I don't like to say this, but he's been playing so soft, bro. I don't understand what is like his mental because I seen him coming off the bench as a rookie last year and play with way more aggression and on the boards than he is this year, and he's a second year guy already. I don't know what's wrong with him. I don't know if it's just he's in his head or he's just
Yeah, I
afraid of these
think it
bigger
might be that.
guys. Maybe I don't know, but he's just been soft. He goes up soft. He's letting guys out rebounding him on the defensive end, and I'm just like, I
Yeah,
don't know,
man.
I don't know.
I mean, I was trying to say that he wasn't soft, but I'm looking at the games and it's kind
Yeah,
of true. He's been
I don't
soft.
I don't like to say that because that's not a word that I like to like to reference to people, but that's just
Yeah,
what I'm seeing. I don't know how else to really put it.
and think about it. I mean, yeah, college is a different ball game than the NBA, but I watched him in college in that little last year of his. I watched back some of the highlights, some of the tapes, just games in general. He looks way better out there. Like he looks like he wants to put the ball on the floor and go get it. But I know that Steve Kerr is telling him, that there's certain things he's limited to, but If you're gonna be limited to something, then you better do it with all your might. And I don't know if I see that from him. You can't be 6'9" on the floor, the big man, and expect an average what 4 rebounds a game. That's just unacceptable. But anyway, young guys played well tonight. I'll give them their flowers. Everybody else on the team just didn't want to play basketball. It was the Boston hangover. We didn't. We stayed up all night drinking and watching back tape or whatever, bro. And we just weren't ready for the game. I'm hoping that this wakes us up and we walk into OKC fully rejuvenated, and fully focused on the game that's ahead.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing? I
Who's
mean,
that? Caprice?
yeah,
Damn, I haven't heard your voice in a minute.
I
Oh,
know.
how you doing?
I'm good. So let me ask you a question. I know everybody played bad, but like, who is the one person or multiple players you think is to blame for this game tonight?
Um, you know what? I wouldn't blame any one person. Well, let me do this. Steph had 6 turnovers.
Mhm.
Um, I felt like a lot of those turnovers, they like I started off the game and he had 1 turnover and I just rolled my eyes. The next and it was almost a turnover. He threw like a hook pass and it was their ball, but it's like once I saw that, I just rolled my eyes and I started to light into him. I was like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
Mhm.
are you do you care about the game or not? You know what I'm saying? And it's like sometimes you see him just come out with like an energy, and then that energy is just absolutely infectious. You know what I'm saying? So tonight, I don't think he came out with the right force. There's sometimes when he gets guys going or whatever, but you see when he starts to play with the ball like that and he's throwing like these weird left-handed hook passes and then they swipe the ball away, then they're going back and they're getting a layup. Like that's not good, and that don't set a good tone for the game. And I felt like it happened, and it was just contagious tonight. So that's who I would blame first and foremost, because once I seen that, I've just watched it too many times, and I just know exactly what it looks like. You know what I'm saying? So they just set like a the starters, Steph especially set a bad tone. Like you can't have six turnovers and 2 assists. That's unacceptable.
Right.
He doesn't
Yeah.
even handle the ball like that.
Mhm.
And he's not like a heavy possession guy to have 6 turnovers. So when you see him with a 6 turnover game, and then coupled with the fact that you saw how the Cavs were shooting the ball, especially in that first half, they're going to pour it on. You know what I'm saying? And I just feel like him as the leader coming out with that type of energy, he didn't come out with any type of energy. I was talking about taking shots, right? He had 10 shots tonight. He just had like a bad tone that he set tonight. And then in that second quarter, the second quarter is where they really lost the game, because you look at the Cavs, like I was looking at it and the bench was shooting like 80% from three, like especially in that second quarter, and it was like 2 makes, 3 makes. Like Ty Jerome, he was 3 or 3 from three. You know what I'm saying? Karis LeVert 2 or 3, George Niang 1 or 2, Dean Wade 1 of 1, Sam Merrill. I don't even know who that is, bro. Like 1 of 4, right? So their guys were just shooting the hell out of the ball, and it was like a lot of these dumb turnovers. You know what I'm saying? So tonight they had 17 turnovers. Cavs had, right? So you're just not going to win the game like that. And it's a lot of dumb shit that was just done tonight, and I think it starts with Steph.
So I agree with you on the
Yeah.
Steph point and the Draymond, because I think to me, for me, it's mostly Steph and Draymond. I'm looking at those two because I feel like yes, they're older and I understand that they're vets, but at the end of the day, I'm not giving them the age excuse, because at the end of the day, you have to set the tone for the team, you have to set the tone for the game, and you could just see like when they first tipped the ball and stuff like that, and the game started. You can see they wasn't there tonight, especially Draymond, and the Steph turnover thing. I mean, listen, he's always been a turnover player, like a turnover prone player. This is going back to what, 2014, 2015. So I'm kind of used to that, but it is tiring and it's unacceptable. You see what
Nah,
I'm saying?
nah, nah. 6 turnovers, and you
That's
played
unacceptable.
24 minutes.
Yeah.
24 minutes you play, right? So essentially you played 2 quarters and you have 6 turnovers. Think about how many possessions that is. And it's like, what are we doing here? And it's like these little weird hook
Hmm.
passes and
Yo,
this
Eric,
and
there was
that, and
one
I'm
that he
like,
had
what are we doing
when he
here?
was trying to throw it from their free throw line to the other end of the court to Wiggins. I don't know if you've seen that. And I'm like,
Yeah,
bro, what are you doing? He's not even open, like at all. I'm not sure what his mental goes through sometimes that he does these passes that I'm like, what are you seeing when you try to throw this pass?
yeah. So it's stuff like that I see where I'm like,
And
bro, like,
it's frustrating
can,
because it's our best player that's doing this. And
like, can you come out with just a little bit more force? You know what I'm saying? Like, just a tad bit, and it it just wasn't the level of seriousness that I would expect, and then when the other guys see him playing like that, and then like it's just never a good night when he starts to set that tone. Because I saw how the Cavs were playing, right? Because we just came off of a huge win, you know what I'm saying? Like a win in Boston, right? So now Cleveland is looking at us like, ah shit, like we got to get up for these guys, you know what I'm saying? And they came out with hustle and heart and all of that stuff, right? And I'm going to be honest with you about the NBA, like it's pretty much about who plays the hardest. You know what I'm saying? Like really. And they were just playing harder than us. I mean, point blank simple. You know, and we need to play a particular brand of basketball when when um when we play certain teams. And I just don't feel like they came out with the right purpose tonight. Like they just didn't. Like I'm just going to be honest about that. Didn't come out with the proper purpose tonight. So, hopefully next game they'll come out with some type of proper effort because that was not it tonight.
I mean, look at it this way: they better because two of those losses last year were against the Thunder that were absolutely inexplicable. That the way they absolutely threw those games, so
Yeah.
they better be able to better execute that time.
Yeah, so I think this game was a game where like in that first half the Cavs were just like, we saw what they did against the world champions. They're for real, you know what I'm saying? And it's like we're not I know everybody thinks they're trash, but guess what? We're about to take them seriously. Next thing you know, I just think it's a focus thing tonight, man, because Steph, I just know when that dude ain't focused. And he just didn't have the right focus tonight. Six turnovers in 24 minutes is unacceptable. Like from I seen like the first turnover, I was like, yeah, these dudes ain't serious. And then the Cavs just could not miss. When I tell you they couldn't miss, they could not miss from 3-point range.
I think it was all capped off when I think it was Ty Jerome. He sprinted down the court,
Yeah.
sprinted right at the 3 point line, and just striped that
Bro,
shit. That
Ty
was
Jerome was
30
hitting
footer too.
26-foot pull up
And
threes,
I was like,
bro.
okay, this is not our night tonight.
This is crazy, though.
Yeah, like Buddy Hield was kind of gapping him, you know what I'm saying? Like decently, and then he just pulls and he just made it. I'm like, okay, all right. But all right, so here's the pluses about the game. The bench is legit. I like the fight that the bench put out. They showed more fight than the starters tonight. Um they showed Kaminga was what, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists tonight. He played pretty well. Like it was just bad energy tonight. And, you know, I'm just going to be one of these guys that is just always going to look at the best player. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of it, at some point they're going to have to figure out what the fuck they're going to do with these minutes, like it's cool, road trip, blowout, all of that stuff, but at some point it's not going to work, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no way. So they're gonna have to figure that out. Melton was back tonight. He played okay. Like he still looked like he didn't have his legs underneath him, but it was fine. Kyle Anderson still solid. I love Kyle. Kaminga was probably the best player for us tonight. Um, to be honest with you, Pods are solid tonight. 14, 7, 4, 4. You know, all of the starters, man, like they really didn't do anything. But I would have loved for them to maybe start Moody tonight because I feel like the guards, like, it didn't even make a difference tonight with the Moses Moody stuff tonight, or
It was the energy, or they
yeah,
just didn't have the energy, man. Four
The
games in
funniest thing
six
was they were
nights. The NBA is hard, man. Like,
yeah,
dude, they were trying to lean defense. Like, I get the move. They were trying to lean defense because Darius Garland and Darmian Mitchell on the backcourt. But like, you lean defense, but nobody was playing defense.
yeah.
Exactly, bro. They could at least went with Melton or Moody.
They sh- they
Way.
shot the hell out of the ball, man. Credit to
man,
them.
in
They
Melton's first game
No,
back,
yeah,
he
yeah.
he wasn't gonna start.
No, he
Like,
was. I don't think so. But I would assume
everybody's just tired. They're beat, man. Believe you me, they are tired. They're on the road and they want to go home.
they look like it. I
So
would say
they're
that
gonna
they look like it though.
finish up. We got to finish up the OKC, and then um we got the weekend, and Tuesday we back at home and got the Mavs.
I
Simple.
think that's a game they're gonna want to win for sure. That's a game they're gonna get up for.
So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not gonna. It. I mean, listen, we're 7-2. This is our, as bad as that was tonight. That's a first road loss tonight. The first what? We've played how many games so far? Nine
We played
games.
9 games.
Yeah,
Yeah.
five of them were on the road. So that's the first road loss tonight. So 5-0 on the road. I can't complain. So let me see what they're going to do against OKC Sunday and how they respond, because that was an ass whooping. I expect them to respond with some fucking pride and purpose. You know what I'm saying? Steph got to be better than that. Like six turnovers, that type of energy. Him, Draymond, Wiggins, Trace. I expect a better effort from the starting unit the next game.
He
That
needs to be
is
aggressive versus
that's
OKC.
a decent matchup for us the next game. I like that matchup. A lot of people don't, but I kind of like that matchup. Because they're a defensive leaning team. They're doing some really dynamic stuff. They're flying all over the place.
They're a top five defensive team, but they're like bottom
Yeah,
10 in
their offense
offense,
is
man.
Yeah.
very middle of the pack this year. So,
Yeah, so let me see what we can do against them.
hmm
Yeah, so ah, it is what it is. And I was just kind of looking at it, and I'm like, what, four games in what, 6 nights?
yep.
Sometimes you just got these clunkers, you know what I'm saying?
We call them schedule losses.
Yeah. I I wanted to win this game just from a statement standpoint, but then you
Well,
remember
we have a chance to make a statement. Still,
absolutely.
we can
So
go and win the OKC game. Go back home, play Dallas, and win that one. Right? I
yeah,
don't think anybody's, and I don't think anybody's mad. We if we go on the road and win, we went 4-1. Right?
yeah. So
So
we
at the
we
at
beat
the end of the
Houston, we
day,
beat
7 of our first 10 games are on the road. Like, come on,
yeah.
man. Like, what are we even doing here?
So
So
we
we need
beat
some home
Houston.
cooking. Let's get some home cooking and do what we do.
Houston was the first game, right? So we got Houston, we got who else did we have? We had Houston. Who
The
else?
Wizards, Washington,
The
and
Wizards.
Boston.
Then we Boston. So that's three road games in a row, right? Like
And then
Houston is not
yeah,
a bad team.
and then OKC.
Yeah. So if we lose this one and then we win Sunday, that is probably a great road trip. Wouldn't you agree?
I mean, a 4-1 road trip, and look at who you're playing against. That is like
Yeah.
A plus road trip,
Yeah,
dude.
so we have a chance. And on top of it, to be honest, I like the fight in the second half. We outscored them in the second half. We were down 41. We were tired. We were turning over the ball. This is a lesson. We got to bring it every night. Let's shake it off and do what we do. I remember in 2022, we lost the game pretty much exactly like this in March of 2022. It was against Memphis. We got slapped up. And in that month of March, we went 5-11, and everybody was crying. We dusted ourselves off. We got focused. We got healthy, and we did what we needed to do. In June, we were at the parade. So at the end of the day, Let's just focus. Let's win OKC, and let's win that first one at home at Dallas.
What's up, Jim?
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on, Jim?
Oh man, Uh, I just want to get some quick pointers off. If you're gonna run this starting lineup, you gotta realize that
So what do you guys think lost the game for us? Was it bad
what
defense? Was it
what the hell, man? Did
Hey,
you
Toby,
not
let
hear me
Jim go
talking?
ahead.
Like I literally just started talking, and you just like, what are you doing, man?
I don't think he was hearing you, bro.
Anyway,
I don't think he heard you.
listen, that starting lineup that they used tonight, that's a closing lineup, right? The thing, and so we cannot say that that lineup is not reliable. The problem with what they do with this lineup, if you let it start, is that, well, the Warriors like to come out using the motion offense, and you know how that goes to start games. Steph loves to come out passive and let his teammates, quote unquote, get going, right? So, kind of that's what happened tonight. Steph, I mean, he watched his teammates break a bunch of, their first 6 shots were by somebody not named Steph, right? And they were like, what, they made like 1 out of 6 shots. And so, when you run a lineup like this, that you gotta understand something. That's a Steph Curry centric lineup, meaning there's really no other ball handler there, no true ball handler playmaker there outside of Steph Curry. As an initiator. So in that scenario, Steph has to be the initiator and he has to be aggressive to come out to make things easier for his finishers. GP2 is a finisher, Trace is a finisher. In order for them to finish, Steph has to create the space that allows them to be the finishers. And that didn't happen tonight. And like you guys say, like, oh, Steph is passive and all this. Well, this offense, if you're going to run this offense, then you can't roll out that lineup because that is not a motion offense, right? You got no shooter in there. You got no spacing, and right. So Steph is the spacing. So don't run this lineup and then run it with motion and then get it confused and be like, oh, that's not a reliable lineup. It is a reliable lineup, but not with the type of offense that you're on it. Now, this is something that we've been trying to figure out, this whole season is who's that shooting guard that needs to be in that lineup. They tried a lot of different variations, a lot of different combinations, and we're running down to basically Melton and Pods. Those are the two main options for them to look at and consider at this point. Obviously, Pods is a walking positive. Maybe he can inject some of that energy into the starting lineup. That's a possibility. For Melton, the reason I think Melton might be the best overall fit in terms of balance is because he is a little bit of everybody in that bench unit. If so let's think about it in the sense of like he's like a little bit of a blend of 3 guys, I want to say. Like GP2, Buddy, and Pods, in the sense that he's not the caliber of defender that GP2 is, but he's in that vicinity in terms of impactful connectivity defensively, right? And then there's the shooting aspect. He's a movement shooter. He's capable of that, and not at the level of Buddy, obviously, but he can. And then he's also a playmaker, the way Pods is. So he's kind of a lot of different skill sets are rolled into one, and I think that kind of. Another guy that can do all those things can really add to what they have in that starting lineup. And so I would really like to get a look at those lineups. Again, if you're going to run the motion, do not stick GP2 in the starting lineup. That's just going to make him look bad and the whole thing look bad. It's going to look silly because you need guys to be aggressive. If Steph Curry's going to be passive in creation, and these are not creators, right? So these are some things to keep in mind. Trace, I just want to say, I think with a better combination of players, I think he can look a lot better. Having said that, there are some things in his game that I feel has regressed since his rookie year. There's a lack of aggression, lack of consistency in terms of possession by possession defense. I feel like he's getting beat a little bit more. I feel like guys are scoring a little bit easier on him. I feel like he's not aggressive enough and chasing after loose balls, rebounds, whatever the case may be. And these are the things that you need from an energy, hustle, athletic freak type of guy like him. And if he can't do that, well, Looney's having a renaissance, amazing season, and he keeps this up. Looney needs to take the starting job back at the end of the day. So, there's got to be a shorter leash on Trace at this point if he can't show up against this kind of competition. Yeah, so those are my basic, the primary hitters of this game, man.
I agree, Jim. But I disagreed. You had a tweet. You said let me pull it up. You said uh where is it? Kerr thought he could come out with a casual offense without purpose and be fine against the Cavs. I agree with everything you said just now, but I don't think it was on Steve, the offense. The starting lineup was on Steve. You could say that. But they were trying to lean defense. The Cavs are one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league, so you want to lean defense against a team like that. That makes sense. But don't you think Steph and Draymond are culpable for the turnovers, the lack of
We had
aggression?
13 turnovers in the first half, Dre.
We cannot let the leaders off the hook. Steph and
Yeah,
Draymond.
but you see what I'm. But what is this? There's a lot of background noise. Who's doing that? Okay, so the starting lineup. I mean, okay, so you say that they put on a defensive lineup, right? But you know that that's a. Do you think that that is a lineup that can play the motion successfully?
No, not in the half court. The idea is
Okay,
not the
okay. Hold on, hold on. You
wait.
say that.
I just want to add something. You're
Okay.
right. I understand what you're saying, and I agree. And that is not a half court lineup. That is a lineup that is intended to play fast, like in transition.
Right, but you also have to be able to execute something offense from a half court standpoint, right?
Hmm.
And in that scenario, the game plan has to be that Steph Curry is the initiator and he's not passive and off the ball and allowing other guys to try to create something in a lineup like that. That doesn't make any sense. And the fact that they came out running that means that was the game plan from the get go, which means that was a plan that Steve Kerr came up with to run that type of offense with this lineup, which makes no sense. So I'm saying if you're going to run this lineup, you have to run a different offense. If you're not going to run an offense, if you're not going to run a different offense, then you can't run this lineup to start the game. That's what I'm saying. Is that
Well, in
fair?
the half court, so break it down one more time. So you're saying that in the half court, I don't think this lineup was set up for success, but the idea that Steve had was just like against Boston, except he started Moody against Boston, right? But what you saw when GP came in against Boston, it flipped the game. It flipped the game. So GP, the idea was tonight: throw GP on Garland, throw Wiggins on Mitchell, get stops, play fast on
But
the break. The
right,
problem
but
is
Trey,
there
when
were
you saw GP2 come into the game, one of the first plays they ran was a hard screen for Steph, and he got doubled, and then GP2 is rolling, and he's getting wide open buckets at the rim, right? So that's not motion. That is a direct play. That is a direct high screen play that allows Steph to be the gravity, and then GP2 is that elite finisher that he can be. He's not a playmaker. He's a finisher. So
right.
that's why it was working. They didn't do any of that against the Cavaliers, right? So they
Yeah,
didn't
sure.
run the same stuff that as they did against the Celtics. They came out with more purpose and they played playoff caliber offense. And they ran a lot of stuff with like great purpose. But in this game, they came out really passive and running that motion offense where
I
Steph is
agree with
passive.
that, but I feel like okay, that's fine. But then you also have to look at Steph and Draymond, man. Draymond was, I mean, did he do like outside of the second half? That first half, he was turning it over. He was missing open shots, and Steph turned it over too. He was not aggressive. Like he literally was not aggressive. You can't just say like, well, it's just on Steph Curry in against Boston, right? He really wasn't that aggressive either, actually, in that first half. He really turned it up in the third. That's when he tried. But the problem is tonight, you see, Steph's trying to pace himself. He doesn't want to play 4 quarters of hard basketball. He wants to take,
They
let the
actually,
first.
Dre, they actually were running high screen stuff from the jump. It's
They ran a few plays,
correct me
and then
correct me if
um,
I'm wrong, but the first play that they made was a high pick and roll, play where Wiggins ended up getting a wide open look from the corner. I think he made it, and um, he stepped out of bounds. Right? Is
there was
that
a
is
few
that is
plays
that
they
the Celtics
ran.
game?
You talking about the Celtics game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they ran. Listen, they do run some stuff for Steph early in the game, but I think right now I think this is the lineup, and I've been saying this lineup for the last 2 weeks, and I knew we'd get here at some point because we don't have a. Would you agree we don't have a definitive starting lineup quite yet?
Well, I think they're very close. They just need to figure. Like I said, I don't know if you heard me, but I think they need to stick Melton into the starting lineup at the
Yep,
shooting guard spot, and I think that will change a lot of things on
I
both ends of the
agree.
floor, especially running motion
So
offense.
I
I
think
think the
we
motion
agree
offense can
actually.
work fine
I
with a
think
guy
we
like Melton in there.
So what I think we agree, actually, I think so. My lineup, my preferred lineup, and I've been saying this for since maybe the first few games of the season. Actually, I think I said it after the Clippers loss. After I said Steph, Melton, Wiggins, Draymond, Loon. Now I know you said just now that like whether we want to manage Trace's minutes or not, um, and that's a question that we can have. Like whether you want to leave him out there, see how much longer it works, how much if it doesn't work, like that's fair. But I think Loon looks like I think Steph is. I mean, Loon's a better fit next to Steph, personally. I don't know if you agree with that.
I mean, could be, but again, I've seen a sample size of Trace being incredibly successful with the starting lineup when that shooting guard spot was more solidified. So there is a little bit of a void that Clay left in terms of that, right? Because we saw how good it worked last season. That's why I keep thinking that once Melton gets in there, things will look a lot different. Obviously, we've also seen plenty of games this season where Trace was the closer and things were totally fine. So um, and again, I wouldn't be upset if Looney ends up taking the spot because I'm still very find him very reliable from an overall standpoint. So I just think that it can be more dynamic, but the pieces have to fit correctly if you're going to run this complicated motion system. Is all I'm saying. There's a lot of nuances to it, and there has to be players that can do a lot of multiple things to create those opportunities. So yeah, I would like to see Melton in there and see what that starting lineup looks like, and if they thrive, great. If there's still some leaks and if Trace is still looking questionable and stuff like this, then they can go away from it and try Loon instead.
Jim, yeah, we agree, we agree. So, how do you feel about like, what do you think was worse tonight? Like, do you think it was our lack of offensive creation in the half court, or do you think it was like the breakdowns defensively? Because I actually would argue it was the defense. The
Yeah.
defense. So tonight was just like so. Did you know before this game we were ranked number one in opponent 3-point field goal percentage defense? We were number one in defending the 3-point shot, and the Cavs were like one of the worst teams. And literally, the absolute flip opposite happened. The Cavs hit all their shots. We didn't defend them well. And then we missed all our shots. And I thought they defended us okay, but we missed some shots, man. And let me tell you something about this rotation. They're going to need to cut this rotation down. And we said this after the Clippers game, and I'm saying it again. I don't know who's going to get cut out. I know there's like a lot of guys are playing well, okay, for now. But you guys noticed that when we played Melton, Pods, Moody, these guys, it did take away from some of Buddy's aggression, some of Buddy's shot attempts. Like Buddy's minutes got affected tonight. Buddy's aggression got affected tonight. Buddy Hield has been one of our best players this season, one of our most positive players. We want him to get more shots. We want him to be more aggressive. At least for now. I mean, we've seen it. Tonight, he took 4 shots. 4 shots. He's averaging 20 plus points per game this year. And again, this is where the depth, yes, it's a good thing. And I think it is a good thing. It's a net positive overall. But there are some drawbacks. One of the drawbacks is if you're going 12 deep, if guys aren't performing up to standard, now you're not only hurting like the team in those minutes, but now you're hurting other players who could contribute if they played longer. Meaning, Pods and Melton were awful in the first half. They were awful. Second half, Melton was better, Pods was better. But first half, they were not good. Buddy Hield suffered because of that, because he couldn't play as much or take as many shots. And so we couldn't get the most out of him. So, like, you have to be sure in the rotations. You need to know who's playing well at the time to feel comfortable with who you're putting out there. Otherwise, you're just going to hurt it's going to snowball like this. The reason it snowballed was because we didn't have a consistent, concise rotation like we did against Boston. Boston, yeah, we played a little deep, but we had dudes that we knew. Okay, Buddy, we're running stuff for him. Moody, you get going in the starting lineup. Okay, sub him out, Loon, like GP. We had like a set stand. Tonight it was like Pods. And here's the thing too. I know it's a good thing that like everyone was healthy tonight, but that's what I'm saying. That's the trade-off because Draymond was back. I mean, he didn't get hurt to the point of missing the game, but he did deal with like a knee injury. So Draymond's fine. He was back. Pods got back from an illness. Melton got back from his back injury. So we had 3 dudes tonight that were available. So that extended the rotation. Now we're playing 12 guys, and I'm telling you, there are negatives to that. Like we have to find a way to cut this thing down, and we need a starting lineup. Those two things: cut the rotation down, find a starting lineup, and I think the sooner we can find that and a concrete version of it, I think we'll be okay. But tonight was a clear flaw in like some of the roster.
Yeah, they're gonna be okay, throughout the season. They just against the more serious teams, though, you do have to clean things up, and this is where you can get into some trouble because it's like, well, you have these rotational players that you rely on, but then they have, a bad stretch, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm not really gonna go to you in this game, and that's pretty unfair for players that are in rotation. They should always get an opportunity to for redemption. And it's hard to get that when you're getting minutes in the teens as a rotational piece. So I totally agree. Like this is long term, they can't continue doing this. I just don't know how or what they can do to cut the rotations down to. I don't think that they can cut it down to 10. 10's a lot. And I think they still can't cut it. I feel like at most Steve is going to cut it down to 11 rather than 12. I don't
You
think he
might
can.
be right. You might be
They're too
right. You
deep.
might be right. Yeah, no, you might be right. But you know what? We're gonna have to. I hate to say it, but this is the reality of if you want to win a championship, like you may have to hurt some feelings. Like you may have to just trust certain pieces now, and then like if a dude goes down, or if something happens like where you have to make a pivot, then you can pivot. But you have to just. The problem is we have an identity, but some of that concreteness in the identity is lost because we're like mixing and matching so much. When Shadow says like we need a clear starting lineup, he's right. Like he's been saying it the last week or two. Like you can't, and this is while we were winning games. So imagine like we're fine. I mean we're 7-2. Like we're okay. We're our record is good. We're healthy. We're fine. But I'm just saying like at some point, preferably sooner than later, you got to find some sort of combos that you can rely on a game to game basis, or you're just going to be playing roulette for the next 3 months. You're going to be playing RNG, random number generator, where you're just throwing. Because we've started like 5 different starting lineups this season so far. You know what I'm saying? And this is fine. Like again, we're working things out. It's early in the year. We have to figure it out. But again, like we got to find a lineup and stick to it. Stick to it because otherwise, it's going to turn out like last year in the sense of we're not going to have much. And we're not going to have the peak continuity that we want to achieve, right? And you're saying the same thing, Jim.
Yeah, I really think that we've narrowed it down to Melton and Pods. I don't think that there's much disagreement there. Maybe some people will be like Moody. I'm convinced that Moody's not the long term starting shooting guard for this team, for this iteration, for the team that is trying to gun for a title this season. You have to have the strongest pieces as in your starting unit, and I just don't see him being that piece. So yeah, it's between Melton and Pods, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think.
Melton, start Melton, two way. I'm
Yeah,
I'm going with
Melton,
Melton.
Melton,
Yeah,
Melton two way.
Milton. No,
I've been
say
saying
Milton.
it. I've been saying it since we acquired him. Actually, I
Yeah.
not now, not in the summer. No, I said it since we literally the day. I'm like, that's our starting shooting guard right there because he's two way. He can shoot. He can screen. He can pass. He can rebound, and he can play. And he's athletic, right? And he can defend at the point of attack. He's just too well rounded to not play.
Yes.
Uh, but the problem is his injuries. And so that's where the shakiness comes is like if he gets hurt, then now you got to replace him, and then it gets a little dicey. So that's the problem.
Yeah, I think this. Like I thought about Buddy. I mean, I guess that does have potential in terms of scoring. I do think that they take a step back from a defensive standpoint if they do that. Um, so yeah, these are the thoughts that you and they have so many guards that they have to choose from to do this. And ultimately, if they can't find that definitive piece that they're gonna say like, okay, this is it, we're going with this, right? If they can't do that, then that's where they have to consider consolidation because there's too many guards and they can't seem to figure it out.
So
At
so
some point, you got to choose quality over quantity, is what we're saying.
Right.
so do you guys feel like this team is overly reliant on Buddy when he's not scoring, or do you feel like they're more reliant on Steph? Like, what do y'all think based on this season?
No, it's more so that there will be points when Steph is obviously off the floor, and you just have to have somebody to generate offense. Like you can't just be sitting there like twiddling your thumbs when guys are just rotating, but nobody's a scoring threat. Like that's what Buddy's purpose is there for. Even more so with like him and JK off the bench. Like you need scoring at some point. Like you can't just lean defense all the time. Like you gotta have scoring. That's the whole point.
Right. So basically, you're saying that Buddy needs to score at least, let's say, 10 plus points in order for the team to
So
feed off him in order to score, or
so
like
here's
what
what
are you
I'm
guys
saying,
thinking?
right? So
Yeah.
that's a good point that you're bringing up. It's not about a like a number or like a threshold. It's not like, oh, he needs to take this many shots or score this many points. It's more like what we've watched with this team is when Buddy Hield shoots the ball, we win those minutes and we win them big. We win them big. So what we need to do is we cannot play guards in front of Buddy Hield where that it takes away from what he does, which is help us win his minutes. Because when he's on the court, he's a walking positive. Tonight, the dude looked like a role player, which, by the way, he's been a role player throughout the year, but he's been a high level role player, super high level role player. Like we're talking about a guy, quote unquote, role player who's averaging 20 plus points a game this season. So now tonight he took 4 shots. Cannot happen. More minutes, more shots. But how do you do that? Consolidate the rotation. Otherwise, you're going to have guys out there that are going to eat into his minutes and eat into his shot attempts. Cannot have that. So with this team benefits greatly when Buddy Hield is aggressive. And we know that we win his minutes. We've seen the data. We've watched the games. We dominate with Buddy Hield. But it needs to be the right rotation, the right lineups. And tonight we failed. We failed tonight and that's where I do put this on Steve. He played too many guys. He played too many guys, and whether whatever the reason was, it doesn't matter. He played too many, and we've been saying this that this is an issue he's going to have to correct at some point. But like I said, you know, um, it just is what it is, right? For now, like you gotta find a way to not. I mean, he doesn't want to hurt feelings. He doesn't want to hurt feelings right now. He wants to prolong it as long as he can. So that's fine. But at some point, you will have to. You will have to make that decision.
Yo, what's up,
Yeah, yeah.
guys?
What up?
What's going on,
So,
TJ?
so obviously, that was a pretty bad loss. And it brings me back to something that Steve Kerr has been saying a lot in his interviews about, whether it's a question or some kind of adjustment. He says he likes to not answer things until he has to. So obviously now he's gonna have to, answer the question as to the rotation, the starting lineup, etc. But maybe you guys wouldn't agree in terms of like whatever reason, but do you think that this is a opportunity for them to go back to that original starting lineup that they wanted to see through, with the JK and all that, like the big starting lineup? I mean, because there's obvious like further implications with it, because I mean, I think he had a pretty good game. I'm not like necessarily caping for it, but I'm just saying, if you have to make some kind of adjustment and that's something they wanted to see anyways, it almost makes you wonder if that's something that they're going to try, especially seeing with this situation, because I mean, that's going to be something that they're going to have to worry about at some point with the contract looming and everything. You know what I mean, with JK. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Do you think that they'll go back to trying that?
Not really. I
Like,
think
I
they're
haven't
pretty
heard anybody
satisfied with
say
his
anything
play
about
off the
it.
bench so well tonight he was kind of do it all. He did a little bit of everything, but I think they like his role for in terms of what he does from the bench, and maybe on certain nights when they have a good lead going and he's playing really well, and they may even give him some opportunities to close as well. But in terms of starting or coming off the bench, it seems like they've made up their mind about that.
But I'm gonna be honest, we're better off working out like 3 games, 2 games, 4 games, not even 3 games is not enough to say that that starting lineup didn't work.
Agreed.
Rather than tinkering with all these different starting lineups, I would have rather the original one that was blowing out teams by 50. And yes, it has some deficiencies, but at the end of the day, it's like, why are we adjusting to other teams? Let other teams adjust to us.
Yep.
We had put GP2 in there because Garland's fast and shifty. Well, it's better that Garland had a 6'8" guy guarding him. I would have rather that tonight.
I just don't think
Kaminga
Yep.
their
was ready
offense
to play,
can.
and Garland, Mobley, and they didn't care. Mobley played for like the first 16 minutes of the game.
I just think if you're
So
going to continue to run
it's not
motion, you
about
can't.
bench starters. Like, I'm gonna be honest, they're gonna do all this flipping around, and Jonathan Kaminga is gonna be the best person suited to be in that lineup.
Well, it depends on what offense you
They've
run.
got to get reps.
Shadow, are
I
you hearing
think I
me?
think the offense will be fine, bro.
I think they're offensively fine and defensively fine. That's their best combo, offensively and defensively, both ways. That's their
Well,
best.
I think the
Shadow. So
slow starts in those first couple of games was literally
So
because we
we
couldn't
went with
get Steph
GP
going.
two, and we were down 20-2.
Yeah, exactly. Like what I'm saying is like when if we're talking about offense and the small sample size that we got, like we didn't have Steph going in those games either. Like so now that we've
We
gotten
don't
Steph
even have
going a
a
little
real
bit
sample
more.
size because in the Clippers game, Steph was gone.
Yep.
When we in the first two games, it was mollywop, and then we just went away from it. We
Yep.
don't have enough data. My eyes tell me Steph, Wiggins, Kaminga, Draymond. In my personally, I love TJD, but the way Looney's been
Looney.
playing, the only adjustment I'd make is Looney over TJD. Split their minutes in half. 24,
Bro.
24, 20,
Bro.
20, and I'd rather that. I'm telling you, I'm double stamping it right now. They're going to end up going back to that, and that's what's going to take us over the top, that lineup. But it has to be together, it has to have cohesiveness.
Yes. I agree. Drake, have I not been saying that lineup for like the longest? Even when things were going good?
Yep,
Like,
that's the
don't get me
lineup.
wrong, it's if on paper and it makes sense to put Melton and do all that, but we don't know. That's another more games of that, and then Melton has a back flare up, and then he's gone for 5. No, I want to continue. We have 70 something games left. Let's just rock with that lineup that was working. Why are we adjusting to teams?
Yep.
Make them adjust to us.
And if you make the adjustment for like TJD for Loon, the thing about Loon is like you know that his like off ball screening could get Steph's off ball movement going, and that's gonna open things up for everybody else. We know this. And then you know that TJD is gonna absolutely dominate those bench units. Like absolutely dominate.
I would
And
rather I would rather just see like Kaminga out there
yeah,
because, there was a point during the game where they were running that stuff, shots weren't falling, they were turning over the ball, in a few possessions they gave it to Wiggs, they gave it to Kaminga. And those are like the athletes, you know what I'm saying? And they just get to the rim, they draw fouls, right? Like sometimes you just need some of those guys in your lineup, you know what I'm saying? I
yep,
get that it's deficient, but like I think they just went away from it way, way, way too quickly. Like it was
yeah.
bad in like the first quarters of the first two games, but the second quarters it was great. You know what I'm saying? So I just felt like we just went away from it
Yeah, it's
way, way,
like,
way too
okay,
quickly.
they were bad in the first quarters, but in the
Yeah.
third quarters, they were the best third quarter team in the league. Like, why are we even going away from it? Like, if it's
Thank
not broke,
you.
don't fix it, man. Like,
And it
eventually, the slow starts will that's just from execution. Once they figure out what they're working with, I believe that Kaminga, Wiggins should get more downhill stuff. Like, even if you even look what's going on, the shot distribution is just off on our team.
yep, I agree.
Sometimes Steph wants to take fucking 10 shots, sometimes he wants to take 20,
Yep.
right?
And
And in
and
order for that lineup to work, Steph has to be aggressive because
yeah,
it is to our advantage. You know when our fan base always says, "Oh, well, when Steph gets doubled, give it to Draymond and make him a trigger man, and then you have two athletes that's going to go downhill and kill." And when we do that, we kill teams. Simple.
this is
It's
a
not hard.
wings league, man. It's a wings league. You win at the highest level through your wings surrounded by your best player. You go look at all the most recent championship teams, including ours. It was their best player surrounded by wings. Like Celtics, look at all their wings, dude. The Nuggets, their wings was Bruce Brown, Aaron Gordon, MPJ, KCP. Our team we had freaking Otto Porter. We had Wiggins. Like the list goes on. Like you can go through every championship team. Look at all of our chip years. We had great wing play surrounded by Steph. You surround Steph with big bodies like that, dudes who can be dynamic on both ends. Obviously, like JK's got like things he's got to improve, but I think he's been showing it lately.
I know, but
I
what
think
I'm
that's what
saying
it's going to
is,
take for us to win at the highest
CJ,
level.
what I'm saying is, it's not enough for me to say we're getting off to a slow start. Let's scrap that. When
Yeah, yeah, I
by
agree.
right in the third quarter, they're literally the number one team in the league.
No, no, we're on the same page, bro. We're saying the
Like,
same thing.
and
Well,
it's
here's
the
the
Why
thing.
same
is that?
Well,
starters
that's the
Why
thing.
is
Like
that? Can you explain why that is?
because it's all it is execution, and we don't have no fucking data, Jim.
I'll tell
It's
you why.
because in
It's
the
been
third
Scott,
quarter
we
Steph
did
Curry
two
I'll
comes
tell
out with
you.
a
games.
I'll tell
different
you why.
energy. That's why.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why.
See, I
It's
agree,
really
Jim.
quite simple, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with that, Jim. I was gonna say like it's because Steph's more aggressive. He takes more shots. He hunts for mismatches, and we just go on runs. Like we just. But here's the thing, though. I've noticed too. Our defense has slipped a bit at times in the second half, specifically the start of the third. So it is a mixed bag still. I don't think anything's like. There are some good trends. There are some good patterns, but there's also things that are like a little bit up and down. We have to correct. But yeah, I mean, Steph, you're right. Ultimately, in the third quarter, Steph is far more aggressive than he is in the first. That is
Yeah, but
true.
he needs to start games like that, and we're
Yep.
better
Yes.
off.
This
GP
is
Yes.
what
two
I've
is
been trying to
six
say.
one.
You can't
Exactly.
do
It's
that
not a
when you run the
starting
GP is
lineup
motion.
6
problem. That's
foot
a
He
one,
will
Steph
bro.
never
problem.
come out aggressive playing the motion. Do
I
you guys
think
understand this?
I think Wiggins being 6'8", Kaminga being 6'7", 6'8", Draymond 6'6", whatever, Looney 6'9". Like, we're better off with three guys in our starting lineup over 6'8". Like, I just don't know what to say. We're
Even if
just
you
better
just
off.
slot in JK and keep TJD there to give that exact unit more time, give TJD more time, like start there, and then if the play between TJD and Looney continues, then that could be like an adjustment. I just feel like it didn't get enough chance to like really see what it could be, you know?
Exactly.
Well, I will
I
say that the
honest.
weakest players on the team, I feel, is it stems from their level of toughness when it comes down to it, and that's why certain combinations is harder to rely on when you have like two guys who are not bangers or something like that. So in that sense, when you talk about a theoretical lineup where you're bringing Kaminga back into the starting lineup, to be honest with you, I feel like that will create some unnecessary headaches for when they have to close the game. I think that will hurt him a little bit more to for him to be coming back into the starting lineup and then still not being put in the closing lineup. So I can see some
Yeah,
different
but
issues
when
coming
he's in
about
the starting
in
lineup,
that
his
manner. But I
energy
will
is gonna
say,
be there on the
it,
defensive end, which is gonna have him closing.
so Shadow, you were under the water. We didn't hear what you said.
I'm saying is, I think that it's gonna do the opposite. I think it's gonna make him want to be a closer if he's in the
It's
starting
not
lineup.
about him wanting to. Of course, he wants to be a closer. We all know that. It's about like what they look like when he's there, when the game is on the line. It's a different
So
level
Jim, are
of
you
play that
really
you have to
telling
do.
me? Are you really telling me all the lineups we tried are better than the original the one with Steph, Wiggins, and Kaminga? You can't be telling me that, man.
Are you
We got
telling
off to
me
a
that
slow start
Kuminga is a
pretty much every
more
single
reliable
game.
or better defender than GP2 is to close a game? Are you suggesting that?
No, but it's
Okay, then.
but that's not what it's about,
It is what it is.
bro.
That is what it is. You have to put out, your most reliable lineups from a defensive standpoint for you to be able to reliably close games and create separation for those
But
minutes.
it is what it is. Because I know Darius Garland ain't no crazy defender, and guess what? He's closing games.
So I'm a little confused. Do you trust JK more in the starting lineup or in the closing lineup?
I would definitely trust him more in the starting lineup than closing at this point.
Couldn't
So
your
you're leaning
closer
more
just be
towards his.
But I will
contingent?
say this, man. I will say this. I don't want it in a scenario where Kamingo goes back into the starting lineup. You're right. I don't want Trace in there at the same time. I don't think that those guys together at the same
I'm
time
just
is a good
saying.
mix.
I
I
just
think
saying
Looney is more
Looney
forceful.
and Trace split time, and Lou put Looney in the starting lineup and put Trace with the second unit, and then it's gonna work out. That's what I personally believe.
Me too. I think that Buddy and Trace could be a dynamic combo off the bench too. Like I think there's still something you could do with it. And there's gonna be times where like you might be able to lean on TJD to close. I just feel like Trace is like you get his minutes in short bursts, but you get high intensity. Like you do it like that. I feel like that's how you get the most out of him. I don't have anything negative to say about Trace.
I do. I don't know if this is some kind of sophomore slump or what, but this is a regression from his rookie year, and it's fucking disappointing, man. Be better, Trace.
But don't you
Bring your
think
energy up.
that
What
if he
is
came
It's
off
this?
the
mental.
bench, it
It's
would
mental,
fire him
bro.
up?
It's all mental, man.
If
You're a
he
little
came off the
soft
bench,
right
you think it
now.
would
You're soft.
it would
Put a body on somebody. Put somebody down on the freaking ground if you have to. Show some fucking heart, man. Show some fight. You're not showing enough fight. I can't fight for somebody who doesn't show enough fight.
Oh, Jim. No, I mean, don't get me wrong. He definitely has been leaving more to be desired, but I just think that you try him in that second unit. I think that would light a fire under him to
Maybe.
try to get back to the starters.
Maybe. I don't want to see
You
Kaminga
don't
and Trace
like,
at this on the floor at the same time as a unit. I think that weakens their
yeah,
defense. There's a softness about both of their games. There's a lack of force
I'm gonna be
in which
honest
they
with you.
play. I don't want
If
two of them
I
on the
think
floor
it's
at the
more the
same time.
offense.
I'm gonna be honest with you, if they put Looney back in there, Trace will never start again. He'll never start again.
That's probably. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I should say.
Nuclear Holocaust Loon, you will never get him out of that
Well,
spot ever again.
if that happens, that's on nobody but Trace. Like it's
Especially,
like, are you
especially
taking
with
this
the way he's
opportunity for
playing.
granted? You're in a historical situation. Go all the fuck out, man. It's really that
But I
simple.
mean, to be like a 57th pick and become a backup big on a contending team, that's like really good.
Well, that's just he's not really a 57th pick. He should have been higher.
Yeah, that's fair. But to like be a backup big on a really good team, like I think that's not like a negative. That's not a flack on him. Like that's
Mhm.
really important.
Yeah, he'll never
Be-
see that spot again. I'm telling you. Because Kevon Looney looks really good.
He does look really fucking good, man.
Yeah, he looks really good.
This is great news.
yeah,
He looks really good. Uh a lot of us were just ready to just throw him to the curb,
For
and
real. For real.
and to his credit, I mean, he really answered the bell this year, man.
You know,
Um
bro,
apologize.
someone that I haven't really paid much attention to because he's in the G League, obviously, is the guy we drafted this year, Quentin Post.
Quentin Post.
Yeah, man. I don't know.
He's
he's not
soft.
going to see the floor.
I know he's not
Yeah,
gonna
No,
see
I
the
don't
floor.
know if
He won't
he's
see the
ever
floor.
gonna
He's
I
gonna
play.
know.
I
see
know
it
he's not gonna see
later
the
on.
floor,
He
but
needs
I don't
reps
know.
in
I
the
think he
G
had a
League.
lot of
Yeah.
potential, maybe.
They might like bring him over against a team that we expect to blow out, so then he can get like some NBA
Steve
time.
needs
But
to Steve needs to make some tough decisions. That's it. That's what it comes down
We're
to.
only
We
gonna
know
we're
this.
only gonna see him like Quentin Post in like in case of emergency break glass moments.
This team won't. No, no, no. Well, yeah, either that, but really, like this team honestly won't be nearly as bad as last year to the point where like Steve felt obligated to play Trace because it's like we ran out of answers. Like Loon was so bad, and then we didn't have anyone else. Like Dario was awful, so Trace was like the only other guy you really had to go to. Trace was kind of played out of like based on the fact that we had no other option. I mean.
You mean
As
necessity? Is that
crazy
the
as
word
that
you're looking
sounds,
for?
which is a
They
Yeah.
had
fact, by the
options.
way.
It just wasn't working.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying though. Like we had options that didn't work, and then Steve had to pivot to something that he hadn't tried yet, and which is like Trace, and then Trace eventually got in the rotation. Then he started, and he was really good last year. His rebounding was better. There's some things he's regressed on, but I just think the best fit next to Steph Curry is Kevon Looney. Screening, short roll, execution, rebounding. All those. Now, is he the rim protector or lob threat Traces? No, but I think we might be able to afford trading those things out for like the other connective stuff. Because I don't think Trace is as good of a connector as Looney is. So I think let's see what that looks like. I don't think Steve is I don't know where Steve is at in terms of like pulling the trigger on making these changes. But he should really look at, we're 9 games in. We're gonna have game 10 on Sunday. 10 games is a decent sample. It's like a very it's not big, but it's something. And like there's clearly things that are working and there's clearly things that aren't. So we just gotta figure it out, man. We gotta figure it out. It's early in the season still. The good news is
Dre,
we're not in game
Dre,
we're in yeah.
that man is going to play that shit until the wheels fall off. So I'm just
The,
telling you, get yourself ready for it.
you're talking about
He,
what? The 12-man rotation?
oh yeah, because he tried that shit last season, right? And he played it, he played it, he played it until it didn't work. You know what I'm saying? And I would give him until I'm gonna say January because it's
Ooh, that's not
yeah,
good.
Hook it
It
up.
needs to be.
bro.
Listen, I'm not saying he has to do
I'm
it
Um,
just telling you
tomorrow.
now.
No, no, I'm not saying he needs to do it tomorrow. But I think max game 20. I mean, after game like because it's clear that like, and he knows this though. He knows that like you can't afford to play 12 guys. He said it himself. Like so, obviously there's some awareness there. Like I don't think. I mean, he'll try to make everyone happy. He'll try to appease everyone and protect their feelings. But listen, man, you got to make some calls, man. You can't just go into the because guess what? When you play here's the thing: the 12-man stuff works against mid or bad teams. But against the best teams, right? And we saw tonight against the Cavs. We saw it against even the Clippers. They gave us some like a little bit of a hard time defensively against the best teams. It doesn't work. It does not work because the best teams are playing better players. So that depth is going to it has a ceiling. Now, does that mean that we still can't win with the depth that we have? No. It just means that you have to rely on certain pieces that work better in that depth meaning Buddy Healed, Melton. Like, cut it down. You can't just have 12 guys out there because if a couple of those guys have rough stretches, now you're not only losing out on those guys, but you're losing out on the guys that could be playing in their spot. And then it has a compound effect, which is what we saw tonight and in the Clippers loss. There's that. Those are the patterns in these two losses. Is that we played really just too many guys against teams that were generally competent in terms of execution.
and I'll tell you this: he has to cut that nice shit out because at the end of the day, I know it's early, but when it come playoff time, you can't play everybody. You see what I'm saying? You can only play a certain amount of guys. So I mean, he has 70 something games to figure it out, but he needs to come to some sort of conclusion, towards during the season, so that we can get this all figured out come
Let me tell
playoff
you
time. So
something.
I agree
When
with
you
you.
look at that on off, and when Steph is off the court, I think when I checked, they were like a plus 14 or something like that. I'm telling you, that's going to embolden him because he's looking at those numbers too. And the interesting part about tonight is that the bench guys or the second unit guys, those guys were the ones who showed more fight tonight. The starters, like they didn't show that much fight tonight, and it's fine. I mean, both units have been playing pretty good, but tonight it's really the bench guys that and he even mentioned it. I think I threw it up in the jumbotron where he was like they showed some fight tonight and that's important. So he said I was impressed with the energy in that second half, and so just expect that he's gonna just keep on doing that.
And I don't blame him
Kerr
at all,
said this
man.
loss is on
We
him,
lost
basically.
2 games out of 9. And I
Yeah.
mean it was just not our night, man. We just had a bad game. I think we guys are
NTD,
we
like if I told
I
you in the
guess most of
summer.
y'all are overreacting over all that. Let's
No,
change the
no, no,
lineup
no.
shit, man.
I don't think it's an overreaction, but we're just being realistic. But if I told you back in I don't know July that we were going to start 7-2 with this squad, I mean, I think anyone
Easy.
would take
We would
that,
be
right?
called
Anyone would
delusional.
take it. Anyone would take it.
Yeah. I mean, so tonight, like when I saw the second quarter score and they won the quarter by like 24, I was just like, whatever,
Also,
shit happens. You know what I'm saying?
to that point, though, what you're saying is true. It's a confidence league. Ty Jerome's not taking those shots if it's a 5 point or 10 point
That's
game.
what I'm saying, bro.
He's
Yeah.
taking them because it's a 25 point game and they feel like they have the margin to take a shot like that. Now it's 28. Now it's 30. Now it's 35. Now it's.
Yeah.
So this is what we were doing to Utah. This is what we were doing to Portland. Like, and the games today the variance can easily swing from one pendulum to the next. Like that's how quickly a game can change. This is why we need to find ways to stay competitive. When we're down 17 in the first quarter, we can't have that lead extend to 40 by halftime.
So I'm
That
gonna be
lead,
honest with you.
yeah.
Like we've done this to a lot of teams in the past, and there was a period of time, I would say from 2017 to around 2019, where blowouts, like I would see blowouts, regular, you know what I'm saying? And what was happening was that there were some teams that were playing this style, right? Like the threes and the free throws and the up tempo style, you know what I'm saying? And there were a few teams doing that, and they would just run teams off